I had my shoes off, belt looped over my wrist, boarding pass flattened on the gray plastic tray like it might crease if I breathed wrong. The security line inched forward. I kept checking the clock because this wasn't a trip I could miss. My grandfather's probate hearing was that morning. My name needed to be called. An empty chair would do exactly what my parents wanted. I stepped toward the scanner when a uniform moved into my path. Not TSA. Airport police. Dark uniform. Calm face. "Ma'am," he said quietly. "Come with us." People stopped shuffling. The tray rolled away without me. My hands were suddenly empty in the worst way. "What is this about?" I asked. "We received a report," he said. "You need to answer some questions. Now." A report. From whom, I already knew. My parents had been clear all week. "Don't show up. You'll only complicate things." As they led me toward a glass-walled room, my phone buzzed in my bag. I didn't check it. I didn't have to. The airport was already loud in that tired, irritated way it gets before breakfast. Shoes off. Belts in trays. People pretending not to notice each other while watching the line like it owed them something. I had my boarding pass flattened on the gray plastic tray, laptop out, liquids bag placed carefully like any mistake would cost me minutes I didn't have. This wasn't a vacation. This was a deadline. My grandfather's probate hearing was that morning in Rio Arriba County. The kind of hearing where names get attached to property, accounts, authority. The kind where an empty chair can quietly decide everything. My parents had been circling that date since the funeral. "We'll handle it. You'll only complicate things. There's no reason for you to be there." They said it calmly. Casually. Like advice. The tray slid forward. I stepped toward the metal detector. That's when someone moved into my path. Not TSA. Airport police. Dark uniform. Calm face. The kind of calm that doesn't belong to a normal travel day. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "come with us." For half a second, my brain tried to argue with reality. I looked behind me, like maybe he'd mistaken me for someone else. He didn't move. His partner stepped closer, angled slightly. "Trained. What is this about?" I asked. "We received a report," he said. "We need to ask you some questions. Now." The word report landed exactly where my parents had been aiming all week. People behind me stopped shuffling. Someone sighed. My tray kept rolling without me. Shoes, belt, wallet, boarding pass, all of it suddenly out of reach. My hands were empty in a way that felt intentional. They guided me into a small glass-walled room just off the checkpoint. A desk bolted to the floor. 2 chairs. One officer by the door. "Have a seat." I sat. Hands on my knees. Visible. Still. The officer took my ID and looked at it longer than necessary. "Is your name Nina Holloway?" "Yes." He opened a tablet. "We received a call this morning. Caller states you're traveling today and may pose a threat." "A threat to who?" I asked. He scrolled. "To the public." That word again. Public. Vague enough to slow planes and people without proving anything. "I'm traveling to a probate hearing," I said. "For my grandfather." His eyes lifted for a fraction of a second. "Probate." He went back to the screen. "The caller alleges you made statements about making people pay," he said. "And that you might cause an incident." I didn't laugh. I didn't defend myself. Authority doesn't respond to character explanations. It responds to records. "Who made the report?" I asked. "I'm not going to discuss that yet." His partner shifted her stance slightly, blocking the door without making it obvious. "The report also claims you've made concerning emergency calls recently," he continued. That was the tell. My parents didn't just want me delayed. They wanted a story that could follow me into a courtroom. Unstable. Emotional. Risky. Words that give institutions permission to keep you out of the room. I leaned forward just enough to show cooperation. "Officer," I said, "pull the call log." He looked up. "What?" "The actual call log tied to this report," I said. "Caller name and audio. Not a summary." His partner started to interrupt. "Ma'am, that's not always." "It will be there," I said calmly. "Because whoever filed this is counting on you not checking." The officer studied me for a moment. Then he tapped the screen and changed panels. "All right," he said. "Let's look." I watched his face as he read. Neutral at first. Then his thumb stopped moving. He angled the tablet slightly away from the glass. "What?" his partner asked quietly. He didn't answer her right away. He reread the line. "Ms. Holloway," he said slowly, "the reporting party is listed by name." He looked at me. "It's your father." The room didn't erupt. There was no dramatic pause. Just a shift, like something settling into place. His partner leaned in and read it herself. "Grant Holloway," she said. "Relationship, father." The officer's jaw tightened. He tapped again. "Have you ever had prior airport incidents?" "No." "Any restraining orders? Pending charges?" "No." He nodded. "The caller also claimed you made specific threats." "What threats?" I asked. He read. "He says you told them you'd make them pay." "My grandfather died," I said evenly. "My parents want control of his estate. They've told me repeatedly not to attend this hearing. This is how they're trying to stop me." The officer didn't comment. His partner's expression shifted slightly. "Recognition." "Where is the hearing?" she asked. "Rio Arriba County Probate Court." "This morning." The officer glanced at the clock. "Your flight?" "Boarding now." He exhaled. "Okay." He opened the audio file. Hesitated. Then pressed play. My father's voice filled the room. Calm. Concerned. Practiced. "This is Grant Holloway. I'm calling because my daughter is flying today, and I'm afraid she's going to do something. She's unstable. She's been talking about making people pay. I'm worried about the public." The officer paused the recording. "He mentions probate," his partner said quietly. "Yes," he replied. "He does." The officer looked at me again. The tone in the room had changed. "Ms. Holloway," he said, "we're going to document this." He printed a slip and slid it across the desk. "Incident number. Keep it." Then he stood. "We're clearing you to continue." As they walked me back to the checkpoint, my phone vibrated inside my bag. I didn't need to check it yet. I already knew my parents weren't finished. They walked me back to the checkpoint, 2 uniforms on either side, close enough to be visible but not touching me. That mattered. Visibility creates records even when no one is writing. My tray was waiting where they'd pulled it aside. Belt. Wallet. Boarding pass still flat like nothing had happened. I put my shoes on slowly. Steady hands. The officer nodded once, the kind that says we're done here, and stepped away. As soon as I cleared the scanner, my phone buzzed. An email notification. "Your itinerary has been updated." Then another. "Your flight has been cancelled." I stopped walking. People flowed around me like water around a rock. I opened the email and read the line twice. Cancelled per customer request. Not weather. Not maintenance. A request. I didn't call the airline hotline. Hotlines eat time. I went straight to the nearest service desk, set my ID on the counter, and kept my voice level. "My flight was cancelled minutes before boarding," I said. I did not request that. The agent typed. Clicked. Frowned. I'm seeing a cancellation, he said slowly. It was requested by someone who answered your security question. My pulse dropped into my hands. I didn't authorize anyone. Do you have an authorized traveler on your profile? He asked. No. He clicked again. They had your confirmation code. Of course they did. My parents never forced doors. They used access. Can you see the number that called? I asked. He hesitated. I slid the airport incident slip across the counter. I was just stopped by airport police due to a false report, I said. This is the case number. His posture changed. He looked back at the screen with a different kind of attention. The caller ID is logged, he said quietly. It's Grant Holloway. I nodded once. Please reverse the cancellation, I said. And print the notes. There's one seat left, he said after a moment. You're lucky. Lucky wasn't the word. My father hadn't aimed for certainty. He'd aimed for delay. The agent printed a new boarding pass and a thin page of internal notes. Caller identified by name. Reason given, not safe to travel alone. I folded the paper and put it with the incident slip. Paper belongs together. At the gate, boarding had already started. The scanner beeped green. I stepped onto the jet bridge without looking back. Once seated, I stowed my bag and pulled the folder onto my lap. Incident slip. Airline notes. Boarding pass. I paid for Wi-Fi before the safety video finished. I wanted time. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Turn around. You're making this worse. I didn't reply. I took a screenshot and saved it with the timestamp visible. Another buzz. An email. Notice of hearing update, estate of Harold M. Holloway. I opened it and felt the air thin. The hearing time had been moved earlier by 2 hours. I didn't close the app. I didn't swear. I took a screenshot and saved it. Systems leave trails when they move fast. I called the probate clerk's office. 2 rings. Rio Arriba County Probate, a woman said, brisk. My name is Nina Holloway, I said. I'm a beneficiary in the hearing today. I just received notice the time changed. I'm in transit due to interference and need to know if the court will allow remote appearance or hold the matter. Keys tapped. Her tone shifted slightly. The time change was requested this morning. By whom? I asked. A pause. Counsel for Grant and Linda Holloway. Has the court granted anything yet? I asked. There's a motion pending, she said. To proceed without you. Based on a claim you were detained by airport police for threat-related behavior. That claim is false, I said evenly. Airport police identified the reporting party as my father, reviewed the audio, and cleared me to travel. I have an incident number and airline documentation showing he canceled my flight. Silence. Then typing again. Do you have those documents? She asked. Yes. We don't accept filings by email, she said, automatic. I understand, I said. I'm asking where I can send supplemental exhibits for the judge's review in chambers. The motion relies on a factual misrepresentation. Another pause. Less script. More thought. Are you represented? Yes. Elliot Lane. He's on today's docket, she said. I'll give you the secure exhibit inbox. I built the email cleanly. Subject line only stated the case name and purpose. I attached 3 items, the airport incident slip, the airline's internal notes with caller ID, and screenshots of my mother's texts. Then 5 sentences. No adjectives. No emotion. I sent it. A minute later, a reply appeared. The judge has reviewed your exhibits and is considering the motion at the start of the hearing. Please remain available by phone. My phone buzzed again. Elliot Lane. I saw the motion, he said. They're claiming you were detained in handcuffs. I wasn't, I said. I know, he said. Stay reachable. The cabin hummed. We lifted off. As the plane leveled, my phone buzzed once more. A text from my mother. You'll regret this. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. They had touched too many systems too quickly. And every one of them had left a record. The plane leveled out and the seatbelt light went dark. People around me relaxed into small routines. Headphones on. Drinks ordered. Screens tilted. I stayed still and watched the folder on my tray table like it could move on its own. It couldn't. That was the point. Everything I needed was already there. My phone rang. Elliot Lane. I'm walking into the courtroom now, he said. His voice was low, focused. Your parents' attorney just renewed the motion. On what grounds? I asked. They're repeating the claim that you were detained for threat-related behavior, he said. They're asking to proceed without you and to be appointed temporary personal representatives. So they can control the assets immediately, I said. Yes. I exhaled once. Tell the judge I'm available by phone. I already did, he said. Stay on. I heard the courtroom through his phone. Chairs shifting. A cough. The flat echo of a room built for order, not comfort. Then my father's voice. Louder than necessary. Confident. Performing concern. She was removed from security, he said. In handcuffs. I closed my eyes. Not from fear. From certainty. Wait, Lane whispered. The judge spoke. Older voice. Even. Counsel, I'm looking at supplemental exhibits. Paper moved. A pause long enough to matter. I have an airport police incident number, the judge said. It indicates Ms. Holloway was stopped, identified, and cleared to proceed. No arrest. No handcuffs. Silence dropped hard. Lane breathed out slowly. He's reading the airline notes now, he murmured. The judge continued. These notes identify the caller who canceled Ms. Holloway's flight as Grant Holloway, citing she was not safe to travel alone. My father spoke too fast. Your Honor, we were trying to protect the public. From what? The judge asked. A probate hearing? That question did something the evidence alone couldn't. It framed the motive without accusation. The judge went on. Mr. Holloway, you are not under oath, but you are in a court of record. Choose your words carefully. Lane whispered, he's irritated. The judge addressed the room. Ms. Holloway, are you present by phone? Yes, Your Honor, I said. I'm on an aircraft due to the interference described in the exhibits. I am available for testimony. You are heard, the judge said. That sentence landed quietly and changed everything. I am denying the motion to proceed without Ms. Holloway, he continued. I am also denying the request for temporary appointment. My mother made a small sound. The kind meant to be noticed. The judge did not look at her. Given the evidence of interference, he said, this hearing will be continued to allow Ms. Holloway to appear in person. We will reconvene tomorrow morning. Lane exhaled. That's the core ruling, he said softly. The judge wasn't finished. I am directing counsel to produce communications related to the airport report and airline cancellation. Failure to do so may result in sanctions. I am referring the conduct described for review. Referral. Review. The language of consequences. The call ended. The plane hummed on. I sat back and let my shoulders drop a fraction. Not relief. Alignment. When we landed, I didn't rush. I walked through the terminal like someone with nowhere else to be. I slept with the folder on the nightstand, incident slip and airline notes tucked inside like insurance. The next morning, I walked into Rio Arriba County Probate with Elliot Lane beside me. The building smelled like old paper and coffee. Normal. That mattered. My parents were already seated. My father stood when he saw me, then sat back down like he wasn't sure which movement was correct anymore. The judge took the bench and opened the record without preamble. No further emergency accommodations without notice to both sides, he said. This court will not reward obstruction. He looked down at the file. Ms. Holloway is a named beneficiary. We will proceed accordingly. The hearing moved the way hearings do when the air has cleared. Dates set. Documents ordered. Deadlines established. No theatrics. No speeches. At one point, the judge asked about the emergency call log I had submitted. I explained its relevance in 2 sentences. Who was present? Who wasn't? The judge nodded and marked it. My father didn't interrupt again. When it ended, people stood. Papers gathered. Conversations resumed in low tones. Outside the courtroom, my mother finally approached me. You didn't have to make this so hard, she said. I looked at her. I didn't, I said. I just showed up. She didn't answer. Lane walked with me down the steps. They won't stop trying, he said. I know, I replied. But now they'll be careful, he said. Every system they touch will remember today. I nodded. That was enough. That night, I organized my folder one last time. Incident slip. Airline notes. Court order. Call log. Each document in its place. Silence isn't empty. It's documented. I didn't linger outside the courthouse. Lingering invites conversations that don't belong on the record. I walked to my car, sat for a moment, and placed the folder on the passenger seat where I could see it. Not because I needed reassurance. Because I wanted the order of it to stay intact. The drive home was quiet. Radio off. Windows up. I replayed nothing. Replaying turns facts into feelings, and feelings weren't useful anymore. That afternoon, Elliot Lane emailed a short summary. No commentary. Just the court's directives in plain language, production deadlines, continued hearing date, prohibition on unilateral requests. He attached the minute order. I saved it and named the file with the date. Clarity lives in file names. 2 hours later, another email arrived. Counsel for my parents requested an extension to produce communications. Lane replied with 1 sentence and the court's deadline attached. I read it once and closed the app. The court had set the pace now. That evening, my phone buzzed. My father. I let it ring. Then it buzzed again. A text this time. We need to talk. I didn't respond. Talking is how stories get reshaped. Records don't bend. The next morning, a courier delivered a thick envelope from my parents' attorney. A cover letter. An index. Printouts. Call logs. Emails. Airline confirmations. The same materials I already had, now assembled because the court required it. I flipped through just enough to confirm what mattered. The timestamps lined up. The airport call preceded the airline cancellation. The airline cancellation preceded the motion. The motion preceded the request to move the hearing earlier. 3 systems. 1 direction. The paper said it better than I ever could. I forwarded the envelope to Lane without comment. By the time the continued hearing arrived, the room felt different. Not tense. Settled. The judge reviewed the produced materials, asked a few clarifying questions, and made findings on the record. He didn't accuse. He didn't editorialize. He stated sequence. Mr. Holloway contacted airport police, he said. Mr. Holloway contacted the airline. Mr. Holloway's counsel filed a motion relying on statements inconsistent with contemporaneous records. He paused. This court finds those actions interfered with Ms. Holloway's appearance. That sentence did the work of 10 speeches. The judge denied my parents' remaining requests for interim control and set a schedule that required joint notice and verification for any future motions. He also referred the matter for further review, as he had said he would. Consequences, like facts, arrive when invited. When the hearing ended, my parents stood without looking at me. Their attorney gathered papers quickly. Lane closed his folder and nodded once. Outside, he said, "This is what quiet looks like when it holds." I drove home and put the folder back in the cabinet where I keep important things. Deeds. Birth certificates. Court orders. The incident slip went behind the minute order. The airline notes went behind that. The call log stayed at the back, unchanged. Weeks passed. Then months. The estate proceeded the way estates proceed when interference is documented and timelines are enforced. Appraisals. Accountings. Distributions. No surprises. The court didn't need my presence to remember what it had already written down. My parents stopped calling. Not abruptly. Gradually. The way people do when every attempt leaves a mark they can't erase. One afternoon, I received a final order by mail. Plain envelope. Heavy paper. The judge's signature at the bottom. I read it once and filed it where it belonged. There was no rush to tell anyone. The order existed whether I announced it or not. That night, I cooked dinner and ate at the counter. I cleaned up. I set my phone face down. Silence returned to its ordinary shape. People ask sometimes why I didn't confront them. Why I didn't demand an apology. Why I didn't say more. Because saying more wouldn't have added anything the records hadn't already said. Because institutions listen when you give them sequence. Because the truth doesn't need volume when it has timestamps. I learned that day at the airport what my parents never understood. Control doesn't come from stopping someone at a door. It comes from deciding what gets written down when the door closes. And once it's written, it stays.